Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Saturday, December 17th, 2016. Before we jump right into VR news, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of a ranty intro for the preamble. If you don't want to hear it, just use the timeline, jump right into the news, and we'll catch you there. For the rest of you, I'll make it quick, but let's rewind to yesterday. So I'd finished the Gaming Friday news video, and my first response to Exidy, and he'll confirm this, but I don't think you guys care about that. But anyways, my first words were, I found the button mashing too distracting for me presenting the news. If we're going to keep doing this next week, pick a game with less button mashing, because he rocks at 1943 and he does this double tap technique. It was way too distracting for me. And I was thinking, you know what, if it's distracting for me, it's going to be distracting for you guys watching. Sure enough, some of you felt exactly that. Now, the majority liked it, right? But I'm not going to eliminate that. I will from the VR news. It focuses virtual reality. It will continue to be virtual reality. But Exidy and I have talked a long time about having a gaming channel, just a casual, once a week, 10 to 15 minute video where we talk classic, arcade, or new gaming, or MMO, whatever. It could be EVE Online, or it could be Ultima 3 Exodus. Doesn't matter. The point being, it's through the eyes of a couple Gen Xers who've been friends since 1981 and lived through it all, right? That's where I'm going to feature the arcade stuff. And I'll let you know when that happens, okay? But again, won't detract. He's going to do the majority of the editing, etc. I'm just going to show up for my half of the history, the chatting, etc. All right, so where's the ranty part? The ranty part is fast forward to today, where I wheel the arcade cabinet out, I angle it, put on Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, the looping demo, about to hit record, and I notice it's frozen. So I do what every IT person worth their salt does. I reboot. Only the monitor never reestablishes sync. It's essentially dead. It will not detect my PC running MAME and other emulators inside. So, one thing to say, screw you, Murphy. That's it. I've had it. I'm all in. Literally, sliding chips here. You and me, I don't care if it's the Octagon, a dimly lit back alley, or UK boarding school, old school style, behind the cricket pavilion. It's on. Gloves are off. You and me, let's finish this, because I've had it. All right. Enough of that. Let's jump into the news, because I will rebuild it. Bigger, faster, stronger, and for a hell of a lot less than $6 million. News time. First news article comes to us from Road to VR via a guest writer, and his name is FrankForter, and it's with regards to visualizing user interface solutions for VR, mixed, and augmented reality. And I'm sure he's never heard FrankForter jokes ever in his life. We won't go there. We'll be respectful and just call him Ben. Ben of the FrankForters, not Furters, simply Ben. He has years of experience building teams, leading teams, creating brands, designing, implementing user interfaces for applications. And he said, despite all of that, I have yet to see, or we have yet to see, the iPhone of virtual reality technology. And so true. We've seen a mimicking of existing interface techniques a lot of the time. There is some original stuff out there. But Ben goes even more original. And I'll explain. I'm going to have a picture up right now. This will be immediately nostalgic to many of you. Even millennials, who you think might not know what a vinyl is or ever bought one in a store, thanks to a resurgence in vinyl records, they'll even recognize this picture. But Gen Xers and baby boomers, hella for sure, this is flipping through a record catalog, a vinyl catalog. And it's also the point Ben is making with a user interface. He says, why can't it be like that nostalgic, familiar feeling of flipping through albums in a record store? He talks about direct manipulation of the catalog, doing it that way, perception of progress while browsing, full visual of the selected item. And I think most people agree, vinyl covers were almost an art form in and of themselves. There's iconic albums out there, whether it's the Beatles' Crossing a Road, whether it's Pink Floyd's The Wall or Dark Side of the Moon, Led Zeppelin. I mean, there's so many classic Michael Jackson's Thriller album that are just instantly recognizable as iconic album covers. That's what he means by the full visual when you select an item. And then, of course, throughout that whole experience, minimal footprint of scrolled items. Because you don't need to know where you've been flipping through the vinyls or where you're going. It's where you are right now. That's what's going to determine that. And a lot of times it was finding cool stuff where you happen to be right now. So just such a lateral thinking concept that when you hear it just makes so much sense. Next picture, he talks about apps as cards. And the left-hand side shows browsing through applications, the right opening them. All within the same context as manipulating a deck of cards, whether it's poker playing cards, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering. It's something we can all relate to, and it's very intuitive. That cliched pick a card, any card that the magicians throw out, right? He then does a mock-up screenshot of apps and VR devices, and then if you look at that of the picture that I've got up, you can see music, photos, FaceTime, all of which can be manipulated using that vinyl or playing card technique. Next picture shows switching between apps, whether it's horizontal, vertical. And the beauty of it is, and I love what he says here, he goes, thanks to thumb sliding along the index, there is a perceived continuous tactile feedback. Again, whether it's playing cards or whatever, that's exactly it. The thumb is powerful in all of that. So I just thought that was such a cool concept, and I would love to see what he can come up with. And then the last picture that I'm going to show on that is using the left hand to do basic navigation, the right executing or using tools. Just, again, mind blown, such a simple concept. I'm surprised nobody else has done it. So hopefully that leads to something. I'd love to see an intuitive interface in VR like that. All right, next news story. Sony announces the Platinum wireless headset. This is going to be launching January the 12th. And if you look at it, it looks like any kind of a wireless headset. The beauty of it is it fully supports 3D positional audio, which the majority of PlayStation virtual reality games use. Using this headset, you can take advantage of that with a nice headset and not having to be blasting it from your TV and not benefiting from that positional sound. So fantastic. Goes for $159.99 US. Features, in addition to their proprietary 3D positional audio, 7.1 sound. And using a 3.5 cable, you can connect that to pretty much anything, tablet, phone, etc. Next up, new frontiers of medical illustration. Now, if you talk to, and again, I'm going to use the example Gen Xers and baby boomers, and you say Grey's Anatomy, many of us are going to tell you about an awesome book on human anatomy that's been around since the 1850s and is probably the de facto standard book on human anatomy. So fast forward, we've got stuff like 3D printers where you can literally print out a human heart, check out the chambers, the arteries, etc. all in your hand. Now we talk virtual reality. And Carrie Shaw, she is founder and content expert of a company called Embodied Labs, who is pioneering the use of VR in medical illustrations. She's got experience as a caregiver, also medical illustration education through the University of Illinois, Chicago. And that all helped drive her company's creation, an app called the Alfred Lab. And the point of this is to teach not just anatomy, being able to fly right into the human heart or brain and of an Alzheimer's patient and study how the brain looks at that level, which a book, Grey's Anatomy, could never reproduce, not to that level. But it's also about fostering stuff like empathy with patients. Maybe it's somebody who has significant hearing loss. In fact, that's an example in the link I'm going to provide. The software puts you in the shoes of somebody at a dinner party with hearing loss, again, to foster that empathy. So very cool. Definitely takes VR to the next level. This next story does the same thing, but in a marketing point of view. And it has to do with Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. They debuted a virtual reality segment of Pictionary, basically Pictionary, using the HTC Vive. Excuse me, my voice going. What's beautiful about that is it's such an obvious thought, and yet, again, so many of us didn't think about that. You don't need extra software to do charades or Pictionary with a Rift or a Vive. You just need a paint program and a screen that everybody can see. Even the Sony PlayStation with an art program and its VR could do that. So that blew me away. And then, of course, the most important factor, in my opinion, is the marketing and publicity VR is going to get from being on The Tonight Show. So very cool. Next up, Seismic Games acquires LA-based Grue Games in an effort to expand into augmented and virtual reality. Now, they are going to keep the name Seismic Games. Their staff grows to about 50. They're known for stuff like Skylanders Battlecast, Clan Wars for Call of Duty. So it's a consolidation of all that expertise. And they are, according to them, working on 2 new games based on major movie universes in development for 2017, as well as collaborating for original intellectual property for 2017 and beyond. And a new location-based attraction, which they're being very hush on, so it'll be like VR Arcade, to be announced at a later date. Now, this next story and last story is something you, me, most of us have experienced. It's having someone who's never tried VR try it for the first time. Whether they're skeptical and pessimistic, whether they are apathetic, could care one way or the other, or extremely positive. The common denominator with all of these examples is they usually walk away impressed. And this is that in a nutshell. Basically, this article embodies that. It comes to us from Business Insider, a regular guy trying the HTC Vive for the first time. And the fella in this case is a senior video correspondent from Business Insider. His name's Graham Flanagan, and he tries it. And if I had to guess, I would say he's probably in his mid-30s to late 30s. He starts with Tilt Brush, then Space Pirate Trainer, which he loves them both. It's his last comment that's just perfectly fitting to end the new show with, when he says, "I know this is just like the Atari analog. You know, beta version of what it is going to be one day. You can only imagine that as the years go on, it's only going to get more and more immersive and more realistic." And then he ends it with this zinger. "It's not just tripping on something that is the part that I find kind of challenging." And how true is that? The one thing all of us pretty much have in common with regards to our outlook or our wants and desires for VR moving forward is to have it be untethered. And here's a regular guy trying VR for the first time, coming to that same conclusion. All right, guys, that's it for the news. Lots of good videos and excellent content coming to you guys on this vacation. You have my word. Can't wait to start on it. But tonight, it's a break for me. Some more gaming. Cheers as always. Catch you guys on the VR flip side.